I want to ask a question about brainstorming, like when you brainstorm with others. I notice when I'm with a lot of very creative people in my life, and sorry, I'm getting calmed. Need to breathe. When you're with a lot of creative people in my life, and we start talking about things, we get very, very excited about things. And I notice that sometimes when you get very, very excited, there's a momentum that starts building, and then there's little bits of discord that start sneaking in.
Because the discussion leads you into more specifics, and the more specifics that all of you get into, the more potential wobble that there is. But can't you feel a general trajectory that is productive? That's
Yes.
the key. That's the question that you're always wanting to ask. Is the general trajectory, because working the bugs out of wobble is really about being wobble-free and seeing how far you can go. And if you get into a wobble and you notice it and you keep going and it gets more, eventually you can render this discussion unproductive.
Right, and that's kind of what I notice.
Yeah.
So I've tried to become very sensitive to these conversations with many creative people I have, and at which point,
well, if you really,
at which point that wobble becomes too much, because I start to feel it. But
we would be really picky, and at the moment that it starts to wobble, we'd back off whatever caused it to wobble.
Okay.
In other words, because you can see the wobble points going along.
Yeah.
You know it. You can feel the moment the introduction, the beginning of the wobble begins. But you see, sometimes what happens is there are beliefs that make that, even though it's wobbling, really interesting.
Right. It's kind of.
In other words, it's sort of like you don't need to walk on that wire across Niagara Falls. You don't need to do it. But sometimes you just want to see if you can.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. In other words, and so in conversations, there are rarely any big risks. And so most of you are willing to risk the wobble just for the entertainment. But if we were standing in your physical shoes, we wouldn't. Because what we would be looking for, here's the best way to say it.
Okay.
We would be looking for the path every step along the way in the conversation. In other words, throw something in, and if there's no wobble, then embellish that. Throw something else in, and if there's no wobble, then get more detailed about that.
So just pivoting in the conversation.
Be sensitive to the wobble in the middle of the conversation. And
Okay.
For example, let's say that you're thinking about doing something with someone. You're coming together in a sort of collaborative sense. And you sense that they're not really they don't even really know what they want.
Right.
And so you're thinking, well, maybe I can help them clarify what they want.
Right.
So you start throwing things out and they get defensive. Well, there's the wobble right there. Nothing productive is going to come from that, you see. So then you could think, well, they do know what they want.
Right.
They want to feel good.
Right.
They want to succeed.
Right.
They want to have progress.
Right.
They want to evolve and expand. They want to uplift. Mm-hmm. They want to be of value. They just don't know how or where or when or who. They don't know the details of it, which you may know.
Right.
But you can tell that they don't know.
Right.
So your goal is to keep them wobble-free. And so instead of talking to them about details that they're not ready to hear, mm-hmm. or that they've already explored and they've already decided won't work for them, what you want to do is keep centering them by centering yourself on what you know doesn't wobble. And so you say things to them such as, well, I'm eager for you to find the freedom that I know you want.
Okay.
And I like the idea of you finding a path that unfolds really easily for you. And it feels good to me to think about you getting everything that you want. And I can feel the power of what you've got going on, and I like the idea of that being enhanced. And there's so much, whatever it is you're involved, there's so much out there in the world to choose from that it's nice to move steadily into it. Technology will support anything that any of us think of. It's just a matter of finding the right fit for us. In other words, you just say things that don't confuse them or don't challenge them or don't make them defensive long enough that that you help them, you influence them into alignment. You got to be there first before you influence them, but you influence them into alignment. And then the exhilaration of true mastermind ensues, because you were already tapped in, because you went intentionally to be there, and you prepared yourself before you got there. Now you've managed to soothe them into alignment, and now they know what they want. You don't really know specifically what they want, but now you're in complete alignment, and now Source is inspiring the whole conversation, and now you are more brilliant in this combination than you've ever been before. And it feels to each of you like it was my idea, it was my idea, it was my idea, even though it was a collective idea, it was a consensus, it was a source energy idea as well. The ideas are the vibration moving to a thing. In other words, the vibration to a thought is like a thought to a thing. You see what we're getting at? Mm-hmm. It's just this moving into greater specifics. Don't you love that?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't you love that? So that's why you've been hearing us for a long time saying things like, get into the vortex and then, get on the high-flying disc and then. Now we're saying push the reset button and get into alignment with who you are. Find the vibrational alignment with Source, no matter how momentumless you have to go in order to find that. And most people aren't willing to slow it down enough to steady themselves.
Okay.
It's like your kids are running through the house like crazy people, and what do you say? Slow down, because you know, it's all fun and games till somebody cracks their head open. Slow down, because you've seen it before. You've seen what it's like when they're not focused, but they've got momentum going. Momentum without focus is not a good thing.